I want to shift the conversation again. We go divisions, we go futures. I think we can keep that theme, but let's go to the NFL. And I want to start with the division that has the Super Bowl champs, because I think that division, to me, wow, Mookie Betts just hit another leadoff home run. Or is this yesterday's game? No, that was yesterday's game. Yeah. That's why it looked exactly the same like yesterday. I was like, wait a minute. Mookie Betts just hit another. He did that yesterday. Anyways, the AFC West. Right now you've got, obviously, the Chiefs are the favorite, but maybe the gap between them and the rest of the division is a little tighter than we're thinking. They are odds on to win the division at minus 165. These are numbers according to BetMGM. The Chargers are 3-1. The Broncos are 5-1. The Raiders are 14-1. The numbers on your screen right now, similar. Again, DraftKings, MGM, all these sports books, they're going to deal you something different on every single division prop for the most part. Shop around. Find the best number. Just because you like the Chargers doesn't mean you have to bet them 3-1 at MGM. You go to DraftKings right there, they're plus 340. I can't stress that enough. Shopping around is important. Is there a team, and we can get into the conversation and go further deeper down the rabbit hole, but right off the top with those odds on the screen, Holden, is there something that jumps out to you?
It's unbettable unless you like betting minus 165s. But here's how I equate the NFL to the NBA. Usually the best player, you'll either have the best quarterback in the NFL or the best player in the NBA. They're going to get into the finals or the Super Bowl multiple times. And we're seeing it right now with the Chiefs. And it's Patrick Mahomes, and they've been there in, 3 of the last 4 years? They got 2 Super Bowl champions since then. They still have a healthy Mahomes who, believe it or not, I think continues to get better. Kelsey is still there. Defensively, they showed just enough. They've got one of the great coaches in the history of the game. I still cannot trust Brandon Staley with the Chargers, just not happening. The Raiders are going to be hot garbage. And I think a successful season for the Broncos will be a 9-8 season. So while the Chargers are always going to get a little bit of buzz around them because Justin Herbert, they've got some flashy names over there, it's still the Chiefs. I'm sorry to be boring about it, but that's just the way things are. In the AFC West, I think the Broncos have not beaten the Chiefs in 14 straight off the top of my head? I think 14 straight. So that's not happening. The Chargers, perennial underachievers, and come on with the Raiders. Give me a break. So 68 days left. 68 days till the Chiefs make their Super Bowl run once again.
Yeah, and I think you're right that it's hard to find value in other areas with this division because it's just – unlike Major League Baseball, I think winning your division in the NFL is a lot more important. I think home field in the playoffs matters. Maybe not as much. I don't know. Maybe I'm talking myself into a paper bag there. But I think there is value to be had in the division markets if you look in unique spots. For example, you don't necessarily have to bet the Chiefs to win the AFC West, but you can pick the top 2 teams in the division, and you can go Chiefs-Chargers to finish first, second at plus 175. Is that – and I know it's hard to quantify how much value there really is there because those odds most likely will not be available throughout the season. You can't track the movement. You can't see what the closing number will be once we get towards the end of the year. Really no closing number in the futures market, but what the numbers are once they become unbettable when they're in the minus 2,000 ranges and above and stuff like that. But plus 175, Chiefs first, Chargers second, or 3-1. Chiefs first, Broncos second. I guess that's more of a handicap Broncos-Chargers than it really is the Chiefs.
Well, and I like that second one there with the Broncos because, again, maybe I've just been burned too many times. Maybe the 7 Chargers fans out there have been burned too many times. But it's a team that just consistently lets you down. Now, it just looks like Staley's at least gotten them to the point to where they're going to be in the playoffs. You can be a wild card team. But I do think at a 3-1 price going Chiefs Broncos is at least interesting because I think the ceiling for the Broncos would be 11 wins and everything would have to go right for them to go 11-6. And I kind of feel like the floor for the Chargers is probably an 8-9 and the ceiling for them is probably 12 wins. But the Broncos have gotten better because of a head coach. I mean, we had Mr. Potato head coach in here last year. Like, Nathaniel Hackett had no business coaching an NFL team. It was
Potato head.
It was. I got the brain of a one.
That's a new one. I've never heard that one before.
Nice guy, very nice guy, but had literally no idea what he was doing as a head coach. And I think everybody here after the season finally unloaded and said the guy didn't know what he was doing. So you've got a no longer fat Russell Wilson, a guy that is now playing for his career. He was fat last year.
Yeah, no.
He's now playing for his career.
I would know. Listen, I'm a fellow fat guy, or I guess former fellow fat guy. I've lost some weight recently. But
my daughter has me on a no ice cream diet for the next 18 days until my birthday. It's going to be awful. I'm already one day into it, and it is the worst thing ever. But in all seriousness, Russell Wilson really knows that his legacy is on the line here.
Sure.
Like, if he fails again. So I expect a better version of him. Defensively, they're going to be just fine. They're a very well-coached defensive team. A little bizarre that their former head coach, Vance Joseph, is the DC here. But I do have more faith in Sean Payton with that roster than I do with Staley and his roster. Staley has he has a better quarterback. He has a better run game. Defensively, there are also some pretty good pieces with the Chargers, although I think the Broncos defense is going to be better. Special teams here in Denver's always been a disaster. A 3-1 price on the Chiefs-Broncos 1-2 is not a bad one, Jared. I think just the chalk is obviously the Chiefs and the Chargers. It's pretty simple. But if you want to get a better price, I think Chiefs-Broncos is just fine. And I have a hard time. Nobody in the history of the world is going to be able to convince me, not even Albert Einstein, if he were an NFL analyst, could convince me that the Raiders are going to do anything outside of being third or fourth in the division.
Yeah, I think when you're betting these exacta markets, as I call them, or I guess the finishing position markets, I think it helps to eliminate teams as much as possible. I would not recommend doing the first, second, third, fourth. I would recommend picking the top two or picking the bottom two. I don't know if that option is available, but that would be an interesting option to go third, fourth. But I like picking the top two in a division where you can feel very comfortable with the number one team. And really all you have to do is pick the team to finish second. That's kind of what we're doing here. We think we know that the Chiefs are going to win the AFC West. All right, so that part of the handicap is settled. So we're basically betting a 3-1 on the Denver Broncos to finish first, or to finish second. That's pretty good. Like I think that's a bet I can get behind, and I think the reason why I'm uncertain. Here's how I view the Chargers this year. A lot of uncertainty because of who their new offensive coordinator is. I think Kellen Moore is going to be better than what we saw last year. Can't be much worse than Lombardi. But I think there's also some warts anytime you have a new offensive coordinator that wants to spice things up. It might take some time. Year one might not be the year that the Chargers show you their best version of their offense. It might not be until the following season. So that's why I can make a case for the Broncos to be the second best team in this division. I actually think the Broncos, based off of last year, are a little undervalued. I think their roster is really good. We just don't know how good the mesh will be between Sean Payton and Russell Wilson. That, to me, is the biggest question mark. And maybe you can provide more details about that because you're a lot closer to the team, Holden. But I think the upside with Denver is significantly higher because if they can get some synergy, the rest of that roster is pretty darn good.
Yeah, I think there's two things holding back the Chargers. Staley, and then last year, that offensive game plan. Like, you have a guy in Justin Herbert, one of the top 3-4 arms in the National Football League, and you have one of the lowest, yards per attempt in the National Football League.
Well, that's going to change next year with Kellen Moore.
That's what I'm saying.
They're going to rev the engine.
It's going to get better.
Yeah,
it'll get better.
But it might take some time, too.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.